welcome to a brand new episode of Sportscast Jersey Football Chat. Today we are joined by Jersey Wanderers captain Jamie Mourant. How are you doing, Jamie?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Although I'm not the captain, it was a stand-in captain last week. It's my brother's the captain, but yeah, I'm doing well, mate. Well,
fooled me. Did it so well on the weekend. I want to start looking back at the last few seasons and how have they been for Wanderers, and how do you look back at them?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think last season was a bit disappointing. It's ever since the formation of the Bulls, we've kind of lost some of our better players, if you like. And then when the Bulls kind of had that COVID year where they came back in and kind of played for us, which is natural because they're obviously playing at a decent standard, then we ended up losing a couple of others that ended up going to the likes of Grooville and a few other clubs. And we kind of then were left a bit short, so to speak. So yeah, the last few seasons have been probably the toughest since I've been at the club. Always when I was younger and kind of coming through, we were always kind of challenging for the league against the likes of St Paul's. And then over the last kind of couple of years, after obviously we won the league, which was kind of again the year after kind of COVID all kicked off, we've just had a couple of tough years, to be honest. We're coming through that the other side. We've got some good youngsters coming through, which is always going to help us. But you can't rely on youngsters to kind of get you through and win getting games every weekend, because there's inconsistencies as you know. So yeah, the last few years have been pretty tough. But we're just starting to, I think, come through that other side of things. We've got some players coming back from university, and like I said, we've got some good young boys coming through that are helping out. So yeah.
Yeah, would you say it's kind of been a transition period and we're starting to see some better results, I guess, from that transition now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, I think local football for the first time, I suppose last year as well, but has been as competitive as it kind of has been, with lots of sides kind of all being able to beat each other. St Peter's obviously, I think, went unbeaten last year from memory, and they had a pretty good season, but a lot of other results were other sides beating each other, and I think you're going to see that this year. In stark contrast, when we played St One at the beginning of the season, they beat us 4-0. To then going down to 10 men with 20 minutes played and managing to grind out a result, it kind of shows that anyone can beat anyone. St Ones have then drawn to Grooville. Grooville then got beat by St Brellards. St Brellards then got beat by St Clements. So there's a lot of sides there that are on their day. I think can pick up 3 points and can compete against each other. Yeah. I think that was the first time this season, other than maybe my brother who was injured and Carl Stratford who was injured, whereby we've actually had a side that is close to full strength. And you'll see tomorrow, I think we've got 8 or 9 players again that aren't available from the side that we had available the week before. So it's always a challenge. It's amateur football at the end of the day, where you're always going to have people away or busy or got other commitments, and when you've got a relatively thin squad like we do, sometimes just 2 or 3 players being out can make a big difference. So yeah, it's pretty challenging.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to touch on your squad, and obviously you've mentioned it. It's quite a youthful squad, especially the one that played someone last weekend. How do you look at the squad, and how happy are you, obviously, when it is full strength?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of touched upon it there with regards the youth side of things. I mean, we've got some players that I forget are still pretty young. Players like Josh Kutonch, right, who's played for the club since he was 16. I mean, I look at him as being 29, 30, and he's still only 23. And I sometimes forget about that type of thing, and I probably am a bit harsh than I need to be, certainly with him at times, because he has been around the squad for 7 years, if you like, and I kind of look at that as being, he's coming towards the more mature ages, when in fact he's only 23. And then you look at the likes of, Max Corbett, Harvey Acorn, Lukey Kutosh, Alex Durant, Zach Trainer. We've got a really, really young side. And then going into that, then we've got some really good under-18s coming through as well. So the likes of Evan Lees and Renato has been playing pretty well for us. I think we've got a young lad that's going to turn 16 pretty soon. That's supposed to be pretty decent. So yeah, it's youthful, which is good, and it's what I believe in how a football club should be run. You know, I've come through the youth at Wanderers in the same way as my brother did, and a lot of players that have played for us in the past. It's important to have that youth set up, and there's a lot of good work done, you know, all from the club all the way through to that under-18s to give them a platform to, whether that be the Bulls now and going and playing in some of the FA Youth Cup stuff, or potentially for the actual first team. You know, it's good to have that platform, and I think if you look at the likes of, say, St Paul's, for example, you know, I take my hat off to a lot of those lads who've stuck together, played together for years, and are now, you know, picking up results and deservedly as well. I mean, they beat us. I think it was 4-2 in the cup the other week, and fully deserved the victory against us. I think they beat us in the league 5-3. I was away, so I didn't see the game, but understand again. You know, probably deserved to beat us, and you know, you take your hat off to those for continuing to bring through youthful players that are then, you know, being able to play in the first team. And I guess it's a sign of, you know, all the clubs are struggling, you know, financially, and I think people are starting to realise how expensive it is to kind of run a football club and to keep going. And you've seen, unfortunately, some sides who've been around for years kind of folding over the last few years. So it's hats off to those clubs and people and volunteers that are involved with local football from a junior age, and giving them that platform to then go and play at a senior level. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the squad. Like I said, we are a bit light from time to time with people being away. And would we like maybe 2 or 3 more? Yeah, probably. But we're pretty confident that on our day, when we get our best 11 out there, then you know, we can compete against anyone in that league.
Yeah, definitely. I want to look back at results. You've touched on a few of them already. How happy are you with the start that you've made? Obviously, I was there on Saturday, like just gone. Well, probably 2 Saturdays by the time this goes out. But against St. and it was really good performance, I have to say. And how happy are you with that as kind of where you can be kind of game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was important, right? You know, we've had some disappointing results, and we haven't really played very well at the beginning of the season. You know, we've been beaten twice by St Paul's, beaten pretty convincingly against St Peter's, and then yeah, even in the Charity Cup, got beaten by St One's pretty convincingly. And again, it comes down to, if we can get our best 11 again, then with a few players coming off the bench, obviously it's a squad game. But I think if we can kind of get that 11 together, like we kind of showed, where we had probably 9 or 10 of our first 11 out against St One at the weekend, just gone, it makes a big difference, right? And we're at that kind of, you know, we're not as fortunate as, say, a St Peter's, who can probably have 2 or 3 players out and bring in like for like standard wise. That's not to say that the lads that are kind of on the peripheries aren't good enough. They're probably just, you know, they're young lads, they're 16, 17, 18, that probably just haven't had that senior football mentality in them for a few years. So big 3 points against someone last weekend, and you know, I felt as though we deserved it. We all mucked in, we worked hard, and it was a sign of, actually, you know, when things haven't been going our way, you know, sometimes in the past, people kind of get on each other's backs and go against each other. Whereas, you know, on Saturday, it was really important to see, actually, you know, being down to 10 men, you know, after 20 minutes, for us to really, really dig in and get, in my eyes, a deserving 3 points against someone was really pleasing. And we've got to try and build on that. Again, it's difficult. We've got a game against St Peter's tomorrow, and like I said to you, we've got 8 or 9 players that were available against someone last weekend that now are not, because they're away or they're injured or what have you. It's difficult, and for Chris Andrews, it must be an absolute nightmare, right? You know, one week he's got a pretty decent squad, and then the weekend after, he's got 4 or 5 or 6, and when you've got the reserves playing the same weekend, you can't call on some of those to come in. It's pretty difficult. So yeah, it was a big 3 points against St One, and hopefully we can try and build on it. But I understand that's difficult when you don't get your first 11 out every week.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on Chris and also Sean Acorn. How good is it to have those two kind of leading you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I was fortunate enough to play for a few years with Chrissy Andrews, and the way that he kind of played football is the epitome of kind of how he manages. He expects you to work hard, to roll up your sleeves, and to dig in, and that's the bare minimum, right? Then the quality comes thereafter. And then to have again, Sean's pretty similar. You know, he's a no nonsense type of character. It's been really good to have him in the dressing room. He kind of gives us a bollocking when needed, and is not afraid to mix his words. And I think that gets the best out of certain players, right? Obviously, we lost Rob Cameron at the beginning of the year, who'd worked, you know, pretty hard with the group of players for a number of years. So yeah, it's given a bit of a different dynamic having Sean in there, and I think all the players really like it. We've got a good you know, team morale at the moment. We are all kind of together. We enjoy training. We all kind of are getting up there and enjoying our football, which to me is the most important thing, right? The results will come once you're enjoying your football and you're working hard and you're enjoying it together. So yeah, I mean, those two are great to have around the dressing room, and are not frightened to tell us when we haven't performed, which is important.
Yeah, definitely. Final kind of question on the football and on the season. Have you set yourselves goals at all? Is it just to win as many games as possible and ensure the safety of the club in the Premiership?
I mean, I think we haven't, so to speak, set goals. I mean, I think it's important to take it game by game, right? And again, it's because we're in this kind of a bit of a transition period where we've started to get some of the youngsters coming through, some players back from university and things like that. I think because we're in that transition period, it is literally game by game. I'd be lying if I thought that, you know, we could really go and challenge for the league this year. I would say that on our day we can beat anybody in that league. But do we have the consistency to do it week in, week out? Maybe not just yet. But in a year's time, when we've got some of those youngsters coming through, another year older, stick together as a group, then yeah, I don't see why we shouldn't be challenging for the league in the next couple of years. So yeah, it's been game by game this year. It's important that we kind of, you know, again, similar to the performance on Saturday, all work hard and stick together, because there are going to be, you know, ups and downs within the season. That's a given in any kind of football club, whether that be amateur level or professional level. So it's important that we stick together and see on a game by game basis, you know, how many points we can pick up, and if that means mid table, then so be it this year. But I think we've got to push on from that at some point. You know, the last couple of years have been towards, you know, middle of the table towards the bottom of the table. I think, you know, Wanderers can't be happy with settling for that, right? It's always been in our nature to try and win things, and you know, I was fortunate enough to play in some really good young sides and even some senior sides where we were challenging for the league, and actually, you know, getting beat isn't something that kind of comes natural to me. So it's a bit of a different sphere, I guess, than kind of what I'm used to. But it's important that we don't just settle on that, and actually we build on that, and then it is that progression. And then again, it's important that we all stick together. You know, at the start of the season, there were probably some players that maybe thought about joining us, they didn't, and they ended up going elsewhere. And likewise, who maybe have stuck around when they thought they might have gone elsewhere as well. So yeah, it's really important that we all stick together and look to build on this season as a platform to go and try and win things in the next couple of seasons, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think the game against 7-1 definitely shows the signs that there is the quality there and you can get those results. The last question in all of these little chats have been about local football, and what are your opinions on local football at the moment overall?
I think it's a difficult one, right? Because I see the impact that obviously the formation of the Jersey Bulls has on some of the local clubs, right? But I'd be lying as a player, especially if you're a youngster, to not want to try and, you know, progress and try and, you know, play at the top possible level. And there's no doubt having a regular games program like the Jersey Bulls have got, where it's week in, week out, and you know, playing at that higher level is something that you should always aspire on as any youngster. I mean, the impact it has on local football is it's there to be seen, right? You've seen some clubs fold on the back of it. You've seen clubs whereby we're looking at tomorrow, where we've got a reserves game as well as a first team game, whereby we're struggling to kind of get 22 lads out to play. But I think, like I said though, at the start of this, I think it's been as competitive as I can remember. Where there are any side in that league, I truly believe that anybody can beat anybody on their day. And actually, do you look at that as going, well, that's a good sign for local football? And yeah, we all want competitive fixtures, and nobody likes it when you're winning, whether you're winning 10-0 or whether you're getting beat 10-0. Nobody likes to see that. So the fact that it's as competitive as it is this year is, I guess, is a good thing. But you can't help but think that the Bulls formation has had an impact on local football. But again, I understand it, and I can understand some of the young lads who want to go and play for the Jersey Bulls. And you've seen the likes of Sammy, who's ended up going away and using that as a platform for him to go to Swansea. I think that young Miggs has been away on trial. I think Pierre's been away on trial recently. I saw on social media and things like that. So there's clearly a platform for those guys to then go and progress. So yeah, I understand the formation of it. I understand why players would want to go and play for them, especially at a young age. But it's had an impact on local football, and it makes it harder for clubs to continue running and stuff like that. So, like I said at the beginning of the call, it's so important that you get volunteers involved with football that keep bringing through the young kids to be able to have that platform to go and play senior football and keep the clubs alive in effect. And which is why I said at the beginning, I take my hat off to St Paul's. They lost probably a good 11 players to the Bulls when they formed. They'd been winning trophies year in, year out, and then all of a sudden the formation of the Bulls, you can understand why some of the lads want to go and play at that higher level, but it almost cripples the football club. So hats off to those guys who stuck around, the young lads that are stuck around there, and are playing some really good football at a young age. I think it's so important to have youth coming through, and Wanderers have always been proud to be able to do that, and I think it's so important. Yeah.
No, yeah, well said, well said. Jamie, that's all from me today. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on.
Top man, and keep up the good work, Dan.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, mate. Thanks to everyone who's watched or listened to this episode. A new episode is coming soon.